Hi everybody, it's Matt here, your local friendly neighbourhood vestibular migraine sufferer. I hope you're all well. I've not done a video for a couple of weeks because I've been busy, but I've kind of got a couple to come in the next couple of weeks. So the first one, obviously this one, voila, is kind of something that I kind of have been thinking about and talking about to a few people, a few fellow vestibular migraine sufferers. And it's kind of like about the whole kind of misconception, popular misconception. Is it a taboo? I'm not really sure if it's a taboo, but definitely a popular misconception about vestibular migraine. So I think that has two elements to it. Firstly, it's the first element is the actual term vestibular migraine. Then I think the second element is the fact that that the symptoms and the anxiety are kind of like imagined, really. They're kind of like a product of the anxiety. So they're kind of two areas I thought it'd be worth doing a quick video on. So in terms of the term vestibular migraine, I think that causes a lot of problems in itself. So the word migraine particularly. So most people don't know what vestibular is actually, so that's probably a problem in itself. But coming to the term migraine, I think when people hear that term, they think, oh, a migraine, well, that's like when you have a headache for a couple of days and you might feel a bit sick and feel a bit rough, but then you feel better and you're fine after that. It's just a migraine, And I think when vestibular migraine is said, so when you say it to somebody, that kind of instantly gives them the impression that this is actually not anything that's very serious, that this is something that's can't be chronic. No one has a migraine that lasts months or years or, in some cases. So I think that term is kind of creating a bit of a false impression of the illness. So been thinking about this and talking to a few people. So I think one of the ways you can describe it is a vestibular disorder. So I think that sounds slightly more, I suppose we're kind of catastrophizing a bit here with our language to really hit home actually that this is something that really needs to be taken seriously. So vestibular disorder is one of them. I was speaking to a girl earlier today who's a fellow sufferer, and she says she's now started to sort of refer to it as kind of like some nerve damage in her brain, which essentially that is what's going on with the vestibular migraine. As we know, if you don't know, the vestibular system and the nerves in the brain around the vestibular nerve have been damaged in some cases, particularly when you have the neuritis, the nerve can get actually damaged and not ever heal. In most cases it does. And in the case with the vestibular migraine, that nerve is constantly getting disturbed by the migraine. So it is essentially getting damaged every day, and it won't calm down until the migraine stops. So I think she's right in that. I think that's a good approach she's taking. So I think that I will try and, going forward, try and elaborate on it and call it a vestibular disorder maybe when I speak to people about it in the future. So we can move away from that kind of connotations that calling it a migraine brings, as in it's not serious, it can't be chronic. I've had people say to me, yeah, it can't be chronic, it's just a migraine, So maybe sort of changing how we describe the term. So hopefully maybe one day that the medical professionals will kind of recategorize it a little bit, because I think it certainly needs that. And then kind of the second aspect of kind of misconceptions with vestibular migraine, I think kind of ties into the anxiety side. So as I said in some of my other videos, so check them out, do have a look. I've done one specifically on anxiety. You can't help get anxious with vestibular migraine or vestibular disorders, because that part of the brain that controls your mood and your fight or flight and the depression side is closely interlinked with the vestibular system. So when the vestibular system gets disturbed, then inevitably the mood side of your brain and function gets disturbed. So you can't help it. So don't beat yourself up about that. But what I find, one of the things that has happened to me, so I've had two spells of vestibular migraine. There was one about 10 years ago when I never actually had it diagnosed, and they ultimately put it down to a virus and also my overreaction to the symptoms. And then I've had obviously the more recent one that started this year and that's been chronic and whereas poorly for many months. So in those experiences, I felt that certainly, although people wouldn't be really harsh about it, I did get an impression from things people said to me or how people were with me at times is that, oh, come on, Matt, you need to get a grip. You're overreacting to this illness. So I kind of felt like oh, perhaps it is me, perhaps I just can't handle being poorly, or, I can't cope with traumatic things and there's something wrong with me, clearly. So I kind of definitely thought that the first time I had it, and kind of hoped that, oh, well, maybe I'll just learn from it then. Then when I had it strike again this year, I, of course, got the anxiety and mood side of the illness at the same time. And that was kind of the point in time when I started to think, hang on a minute, what is going on here? Because I did have a bit of a health scare last year. It all turned out to be fine, but I had to go have some tests done and wait for the results, which is never very pleasant. It could have been something very serious. Fortunately, it wasn't. But I handled that so well. I thought I kept calm. I did the right things. I, kicked back and still, was able to relax in the evening. I was on edge a bit, but, I was able to converse. I remember watching some of the royal wedding, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle thriller. I felt I handled it well. I thought, yeah, that's probably because I've matured, I'm older, bad things happen to us, bad things have happened to me as I've got older, and we do learn from those experiences. But then suddenly I got this vestibular thing again, and I was kind of all over the place in terms of like not being able to cope, or the mood and that kind of thing. So I can't, I remember thinking though, well, hang on, I know I have developed as a person and learned and I don't overact to things anymore. So that kind of made me think, well, what is going on here, and then kind of as I've learned more about the illness and found out that actually that vestibular nerve and vestibular part of the brain has a direct influence on your mood. So you cannot help but having anxiety or depression with vestibular problems, vestibular disorders. I kind of felt kind of a sense of relief in a way that I actually was like, it wasn't me, it wasn't my personality, it wasn't because I over worry about things, it wasn't because I can't cope with a bit of illness. It's part of the illness, and it's something you can't control. So it kind of the reason why it came into my mind this weekend as well is because I have spoken about before, and I will do a separate video on this, but I've been having a few breathing problems that has kind of been running concurrently with the vestibular migraine, and I've actually now been prescribed a asthmatic spray. And I remember just talking to my dad about it, and my dad's been great, very supportive. It's not a criticism, but he did say like something along the lines of, "Oh, perhaps now you've got the inhaler, just having that will mean your breathing doesn't cause you a problem anymore." And I turned to him and said, "Well, no, that's not the case, because there's a physical problem. So my nervous system is being affected by the damage to the vestibular nerve, and the migraine stirring up the vestibular nerve. So my breathing has been affected." And I'm not just making this up. I have been told this by doctors and experts do talk about how it does affect your central nervous system. So, and I was kind of, well, no, it's not. It's not just a psychological thing where my breathing's being affected, and now I've got an inhaler spray, so that means I won't, like a placebo, I suppose that's what he was meaning. But it just, for me, reminded me of the time as well when people thought, oh, it's just Matt, he can't cope, he's overreacting. And that, I think, is a popular misconception that goes with this illness, that it's either in your head or your temperament and how you deal with difficult things in life. And if you, therefore, because you become anxious and depressed and whatever, you just can't cope, so, and that's not fair and it's wrong. And I think my two experiences now, there are things you learn for your life, and you learn from having illnesses and things, and I've definitely learned that actually it's not anything to do with my capacity to cope with it or not. I can cope just as well or as badly as any other individual. It's just that this illness is directly influencing that part of your brain that controls your mood. So I wanted to sort of get out in a video. It's quite hard to explain. I hope I explain that okay. It's certainly quite hard to articulate. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Nip on and drop the video a like if you agree with it or whatever. It's great to see I've got some more subscribers, and I do make the effort to try and reply to every message I get on the YouTube under the videos. Sometimes takes me a bit of time because I don't always open it up in mode where I can see my own videos, if that makes sense. So if I'm slightly delayed, I do apologise, but I will always try and endeavour to reply to every comment. So yeah, let me know what you think. That's probably all I've got to say for today. I hope the light's been okay. Because I'm actually making the video in the dark, because in the UK now we're on UK winter time, so it gets like dark at about 3:30. I really like it actually, I much prefer it, but that's why kind of like, it looks a bit like Heathrow Airport in here with like the lights on, because I'm trying to have enough light so you can see me. You may notice as well that I'm wearing my regular glasses. They're not FL41s or anything. They need it clean. So yeah, that's progress. I can cope, you know, being in my living room with the lights on and the TV is on in the background and not feel totally overwhelmed. So over time, you do get better. It's just sometimes it's a very slow process. So yeah, I've got a couple of videos to come soon as well. So I'm going to do the one about the FL41 lenses, actually using them in the field of play. That's all I'll say for now. And I think a subject that might be worth touching on is kind of like dating and relationships, and perhaps even touch on sex. Ooh, taboo. Because I know people have asked me about that, and I've seen chatter about that on various forums, so it might be worth covering that off. Obviously, I can only speak from a gentleman's point of view, so I think it probably will be different for both sexes, but there we go. Anyway, so yeah, let me know what you think. Popular misconception, and those are the two main ones really that I feel there are, the term migraine, and also then the fact that you're just someone who can't cope. That's why you're so struggling with the vestibular migraine symptoms. So all right, guys, so I'll leave you to it. I hope you, wherever you are, you're coping okay, finding ways to cope. If you're in that early chronic stage, keep the faith. Bon Jovi, keep the faith. You know, you will get better. You'll be just as a slow process. So remember, as you were, you'll be again. Well, take care for now. Matt, signing off.